Hello, and welcome back to Part 5 of the 2020 College Football Season Network Profile Summary. Once again, I am Major Andrew Diet, and we will be using graph theory to explore the trends and analysis of the 126 teams in the FBS division of college football. The network before you represents every team in the FBS as a vertex of graph H, and the games played between them as edges. Once again, also highlighting some of the Power 5 conferences. In red are the SEC, green the Big 12, blue the Big 10, magenta the ACC, and gold the Pac-12. Here we see the network as it has grown through the first 9 weeks of the season, and the last two Power 5 conferences have finally begun their season. Since they are starting so late in the year, they are restricted to only being able to play a shortened schedule and won't have the flexibility to make up games canceled by weather or the pandemic. When designing a short season schedule, such as for the Pac-12, the best case scenario to determine the best teams in each division or conference would be for each team to play every other team like the Big 12 does, creating a complete subgraph. Since the shortened season schedule makes this impossible, the next best option is to create a schedule where there is as few common opponent steps between teams as possible. If we simulate designing the Pac-12 conference schedule, we start with the 12 teams each playing one game, then trading opponents for game 2, thus creating a 12-cycle graph. In only 2 weeks, we can now compare any two teams in the conference through a path of common opponents. However, the diameter of this induced subgraph is too large at 6, and there are still more weeks available for us to schedule more games to get that value as low as possible. In other words, the schedulers would like to design a minimal spanning tree for each team, creating the shortest paths between teams in the conference and divisions, providing the best possible set of comparisons between any two teams in the conference. Starting with one team, such as Arizona State at the top of the subgraph, and building its minimally spanning tree, we generate a set of games to be played based on each team that draws the shortest path to each other team in the conference. Then, combining the union of all the minimally spanning trees, we achieve the resulting conference schedule seen here. The good news is that even with its short season, the Pac-12 can play a schedule with the shortest possible paths between any two teams while still allowing for cycles and interdivisional games. On the other hand, one possible scenario to explore is which of the games now scheduled are the most crucial to these conferences to maintain in order to still make the best indirect head-to-head comparisons between the teams. Every conference so far has had to either reschedule or outright cancel games due to coronavirus outbreaks, player safety concerns, or hurricanes. The conference commissioners in these conferences are interested in finding out which games have the biggest potential impact on the season remaining, since they may be able to allocate resources to protect those specific games. If we want to maintain the ability to conduct indirect head-to-head comparisons between teams, then we need to look and find and protect any bridges in our graph. The bridges are the games which, if removed due to COVID outbreak or other events, would create new components in the graph where there is no longer the ability to conduct head-to-head comparisons between two teams. Thankfully, this conference schedule doesn't have any internal bridges, but by removing each edge one at a time and comparing the differences in average path length to see which edge would cause the biggest increase in subgraph diameter or average path length, with little surprise, these 6 cross-divisional games are the edges which have the biggest impact and may be worth protecting when possible. The currently generated schedule has an average path length of 1.45 games between any two teams. The loss of any two of these particular games increases the average path to 1.6, and more importantly, increases the diameter of the subgraph from 2 to 3. Losing any more damages the average path length even further. By protecting these vulnerable games, the conference may be able to preserve a more solid season.